Hey, it's good to see you again. Last year, I made a filmography overview of my first year making video projects. So, to start 2025, we're going to do the same thing for my second year. But before we begin, I want to mention the first big change I've made, the title. Last year, I referred to myself as a wannabe filmmaker when it came to me and my work. While I do still fit that title, I felt that in order to continue my growth as an artist, I needed to start viewing myself and my work more positively. Since then, I've started calling myself a hobby filmmaker, a title I think works better. I know, it sounds small, but I see it as a big step in the right direction. Anyways, it's the same premise as last time, so without wasting any more of your time, let's take a look back on my year 2 filmography. The Little Things was the first short film I made in 2024. It started as a cinema class project where we needed to make a video using only old videos and photos we had on our phones. It was pretty simple, but very fun. In all honesty, I didn't have a lot of genuine photos or videos in my camera roll at the time. But as I looked at the ones I had, I couldn't help but reminisce over them, going back to blinks in time I'd completely forgotten about. That's when I had somewhat of a shower thought of sorts. We tend to only remember or focus on the big moments in life when the little things are what practically make up 95% of it. Thinking about it some more, I realized it was the little things that all meant the most to me. Whether it was the adventures with friends, bits of my dog's day, or skies I'll never see again, they all felt so important. Outside of it being a good starter project for 2024, it served more as an important moment of self-reflection for me. And honestly, it's really helped me with my time at college. Not only did it help me feel more connected with what I had to leave behind in my hometown, but it proved to me that it was still possible to make video projects at college at a time where I thought it wasn't really possible. And for that, the little things will always hold a special place in my heart. My new favorite scene also started as a cinema class assignment about color grading and camera settings. We were given full creative control of what the video would actually be about, so I decided to turn to one of my older projects for inspiration. In my year 1 filmography, I talked about a project called Reel for Right Now, which was a monologue from the web series Lucids I made as a breather from a larger project. I really enjoyed working on it and thought that it would be a good basis for my assignment. Lucids has so many good character moments I could have chosen for the monologue, but one stood out to me more now that I was in college. In one of the episodes, we see a flashback of one of the main characters, Benjamin, practicing his proposal to his girlfriend. To me, the monologue talks about destiny and your control over it, how daunting big life moments can feel, and how your perspective can change how you feel. The idea that everything is set, all we have to do is keep moving forward, helped me deal with a lot of worries and fears I had about college. Just as I imagined, I had another great time working on it with my great friend Ryan, and from the lens of it being an assignment, I feel like I learned a lot about how to improve the overall visuals of my projects, though I'm definitely still a work in progress. I've made these monologues in both my first and second years of being a hobby filmmaker. I want to keep making them every year moving forward, both to serve as a time capsule for where I was in my journey, and to use as a reference point to see how I've grown. I'm looking forward to making the monologue for this year even more now. Out of all the projects I made in 2024, I'd have to say that the realization process was the most significant in my growth as an artist. I'll always see it as a cornerstone experience of my first year of college. For starters, it was my first experimental film in a few years, with Sightseeing being the last one I had made at the time. It was also the first full short film I made all on my own. Suffice to say, I was very anxious while making it. But in spite of all my worries, the realization process ended up being my most viewed short film I've ever made so far. So to say it was a motivator to keep working on projects is an understatement. The idea came from two places. One, I wanted to participate in my college's student film festival, and two, I'd been having regrets about my major choice, leading me to start thinking about what it genuinely means to pursue your dreams. While it wasn't selected to be shown at the student film festival, it did serve as a much-needed point of reflection regarding my complicated feelings about dreams. The production process was filled with sheer determination and a lot of love, as I was able to write, shoot, and edit the entire project together in the span of 2 weeks. I knew this project would be very important for me since I'd never felt this lost in my own work before, so much so that I can't even remember what those 2 weeks were like for me outside of the project. The editing process for the realization process was definitely the most fun I've had while editing a project. I was practically utilizing everything I learned from cinema class, along with everything I had self-taught myself for the past 2 years. I don't know if I'll ever reach post-production highs like that anytime soon, so I know I'll cherish those times. But in the end, it proved to me that I could make short films all on my own. I've been struggling with that idea for a while now. I still do. But the realization process gave me the hope and confidence I desperately needed to keep going with my art. I'm beyond proud of this project and incredibly thankful for all of the love that was thrown its way. I can only hope to make another project that can make me feel the same way this year. Another cornerstone project along with the realization process is his graphite heart. Originally, it started as my final project for my cinema class. It went through many drafts, evolving over the course of a few months into what it became today. It was intimidating in its own ways. The final project was a pretty decent chunk of my grade, so I was really worried about that. It was the first project in class where I was genuinely worried about what my classmates would think of it, and it would be the first short film I made with the friends I met at college, which just really scared me. What if they didn't like this really important side of me? That question swirled around my head while I was writing the script. Of course, all of these are normal anxieties for projects like this, but what made his graphite heart more susceptible to these thoughts was the very story itself. At its core, his graphite heart is a story about burnout, specifically when it comes to your passions. That was a story that hit close to home, as it's something I was dealing with and still fear to this day. I was worried about how it would be received, as it felt like any slights against it would have felt like a slight against me. But once production started, these worries melted away. His graphite heart didn't end up being the final project I submitted. I wanted to take more time to ensure the project could be as good as it possibly could be, making me realize that it wouldn't be ready for the submission deadline. Luckily, I had the realization process on standby as a backup submission, and it was received well by my professor and classmates. Instead of the anxieties and stress I was dreading, I was met with a fun experience and amazing quality time with my friends Thomas and Moa. I'm incredibly lucky to call them my friends, as they were central to making the project as amazing as it was to work on. I can't thank them enough for helping me bring it to life. It just means the world to me. Along with the realization process, his graphite heart was very important in helping me find my rhythm again when it came to filmmaking now that I was at college. It gave me amazing memories with great friends I'll always cherish, and I couldn't be more happy with the end result. Last summer, I had so many plans and wishes for all of the video projects I would get to make. My excitement couldn't be contained. But after 4 summer classes, a summer job, and many hangouts with friends, I was left with little to no time to really work on anything. Luckily, I was able to make one film before I left for college again, In the Dark. Believe it or not, In the Dark has been a story I've been wanting to tell for a while now. I got the idea for it in 2022 while I was writing Spiritual. Its story was thought of in the same time as both spiritual and sightseeing. But looking back on it with that in mind, I feel like In the Dark inherited more of spiritual and sightseeing's weaknesses instead of their strengths. I ended up learning many valuable lessons from this project, most being reminders of how to maintain my growth when it comes to bringing older, well-loved ideas to life. Despite that, I loved working on it before leaving. It was a really fun time. I wish I was able to make more before I left, but I'm proud of what I was able to accomplish before I did. Short films weren't the only thing I made in 2024 either. In my first filmography video, I talked about how I wanted to work on other non-short film related videos moving forward. This past year was the year I got my foot in the door for some of those projects. Some lasted much longer, others only had one video made. Either way, I'm proud of the progress I've made and I'm eager to continue working on these projects. So this next section will serve more as a roadmap for these projects rather than how I've looked at my short films. The first of my more content-geared projects was a series of YouTube shorts where I'd give quick reviews of movies I watched recently. At first, the shorts were called Movies I Watched This Week, which I thought was the best title for a while. But it was a bit of a mouthful, which gave me the idea to change the title to Minute Movie Reviews instead. With the ones I've made so far, I've experimented a lot with their presentations, whether it be adding comments to each movie I saw, changing the overall format, mentioning what my personal favorites of the week were, and changing the music here and there. I was constantly trying to do new things, though there's a lot more work to be done with them, and I'm up for that challenge. Gushers was an attempt at a podcast format for the channel, allowing for more conversation to take place there. However, not too long after releasing the first and only entry, I realized that I wasn't happy with the format, as it felt like I cornered myself too much. Overall, I love what the core idea of Gushers would be, a place for me to gush over the stuff I love in the creative space. I just want to figure out a better execution that I feel works better than what I originally made. In all honesty, the main reason I wanted to make a Q&A was because I wanted an opportunity to try a new format along with practicing my editing. While it served that purpose, I found that it was a nice moment of self-reflection for myself regarding why I do what I do. It was just a nice time to look back, talk about it with others, you know? Will I ever do another one? Maybe, but not anytime soon. Once again, we've reached the end of memory lane. Last year, I took this time to talk about what I hoped was on the horizon. This year is no different. I made solid progress on my hopes from last year. I want to continue making progress on them until they've reached their full potential. I want to keep experimenting with different ideas, different formats, different styles, and just see where it takes me. I want to make more small-scale projects, ones that don't need as many people or as much money as my past projects. And on the other side of that coin, I want to make projects that I've been wanting to make for so long but haven't yet. Maybe 2025 could be their year, who's to say? I want to bring in more of my friends who haven't gotten to see this side of me yet because I want them to know the full me. I've been scared of doing so for too long, but there's no better time than the present to change that. But above all else, I want to continue to grow as both an artist and as a person. I've struggled so much with who I want to be this past year that I want to continue this journey as I keep defining the person I'll become. I hope you'll all go to the end with me. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the flip side.